Good day, everybody. I'm back again, the Big R Solutions, with our YouTube channel. Now, I have to remind you that the Big R Solutions, you may be asking yourself, what does it stand for? I'm sure even the advocate wants to know. The Big R stands for all the positive R words in English, whether it be reading, research, responsibility, relationship, resilience, records, anything that is positive that starts with a positive R English word. We are saying if people want to solve whatever problem, especially of financial nature, they need to apply those R words. Now, if I take a little bit the responsibility, it is your responsibility to make sure that you are financially healthy, all right? It is your responsibility to make sure that you do research, get answers, you have records, and so on. So that the Big R stands for that. Now, we are doing a number of financial things. We are a debt counseling company. We are doing financial services. We are giving financial education. This is part of the education that we are doing currently. And then we also have financial books, personal financial books, and business financial books that I wrote. I'm always on various radio stations explaining financial concept. So that's part of education that we are giving. Now, today I've decided to invite Advocate Mahkado Ramabulana, who is the Ombuds for the GEPF. Remember, GEPF is one of those very important institutions because it deals with people's pensions and all that. So you need to know what is GEPF, what is GPO, all those things. And you need to understand what are the procedures so that you're able to, to unblock, because people are complaining it takes time for us to get the money and so on. But if we can enlighten or lessen things and give you information so that you know what is point A, point B, up to point D. What do you do for you to submit and get the money on time? So that is the purpose of this interview. And I must congratulate the GEPF for having that visionary to come up with the Ombud. And I need to congratulate Advocate. He's the first Ombud in history. Will be reflecting and say, there was Advocate Mahkado. My name is the Sobri Boys or the Fatsi from the Bigger. Advocate, welcome to the show. It was a long introduction, but welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. Advocate, firstly, congratulations on your appointment. And then I must really congratulate GEPF. I'm sure they noticed that there are problems, and because they want to resolve those problems, so probably they decided to come up with this structure. Advocate, I just want to start here. The GEPF, for them, the reasoning of come up with an Ombud, what was the reasoning first? What motivated them to do this?
It was quite simple. The pension industry in South Africa is divided into two parts. There is the private sector pensions, which are regulated by the Pension Funds Act, and then the GEPF, which is a public sector fund, which basically is created in terms of its own statute, the GEP law. And so those that are regulated by the Pension Funds Act, they have the pension funds adjudicator to go to. That is how the acts were separated. So it starts from the acts, the Pension Funds Act. If you are in a private fund which is regulated by the Pension Funds Act, when you have a complaint, when you have issues about your pension, you go to the Pension Funds adjudicator. Now, unfortunately, there was no similar structure set up in the GEP law, which governs the government employees pension fund. So it was this that motivated the GEPF to say, we need a similar structure. that will deal with our members. Unfortunately, as well, it takes time for a law to be promulgated to achieve that purpose. Because it starts with all those green papers, the white papers, and to and fro until they actually pass a law. So they thought it would be quicker to go the route of the Ombudsman. And it was then that the board of the GEPF decided to make a resolution to form an Ombuds office. They call it the Government Employees Pension Ombuds. So that is the origin of the office.
Now, since it's the GPF who came up with the structure, what does that say in terms of independence? Are you independent, or are you somehow, paying your allegiance to the board of the GPF?
Yes, it's a good question to ask, because the question of independence always comes up when there's an ombud. We have had the same being talked about regarding our public protector, that it falls under the government, it gets its budget from the government. Where does its independent lies? Does it pay allegiance to them? The fact that an ombud is created by a particular entity doesn't take away its independence. What is necessary for the independence is a clear mandate. The clear mandate to say, go do A and B, and it's written in an agreement. You set up an agreement that says, the reason why we are creating this Ombud office is to do ABC. Now, it must do this, and it must account, and the accounts must be open. So this is what happened when the Ombuds office was set up. So to say that the allegiance, first thing, there is also the law that applies. The Ombuds doesn't thumbsuck the decisions that he's making. The Ombuds applies the law. And there is also a relief to say, if you are not satisfied with the decisions made by the Ombud, you can always take them to court on review to say, this Ombud is biased. So that independence is clearly guaranteed in that there are options to actually challenge the decisions of the Ombud.
Okay. Now, while you are still there, you mentioned something very important. You are working according to the mandate. What is the mandate of the Ombud? GEPF.
Yes.
Ombud.
Yes, the mandate of the Ombud is to investigate to investigate complaints, to find out whether the fund has applied the rules and the GEP law and the laws of the country in dealing with matters of members. The complaint, the rules are quite clear as to what has to be done. So when the Ombud is dealing with those complaints, basically he has to go and look and say, this person resigned. He's supposed to be paid a withdrawal benefit in terms of Rule X. And it's supposed to be paid within so many days. Has it been done? And if it hasn't been done, whose fault was it and why? And to address that. If the person who is identified to be at fault is ordered to do so within a specific time, to say, go and address this, that is why, and pay this person late payment interest.
Now, I'm happy that you also mentioned the public protector in the same line. Now, let's say a member of public, you say, you know what? Has a person has a choice to go to the public protector, or because now the Ombud is there, they should start with the Ombud. Or let's say a person has gone to the Ombud, a person won't be allowed to go to the PP. Sorry about that. Or once the person has gone to the PP, the person is not allowed to go to the Ombud. If you can clarify that.
Yes, the issue of where a person goes when they have a problem is always up to the individual. It's also based on convenience. Some matters are taken to court, some are taken to the public protector, some are taken to maybe brought to the Ombud. But the basic rule is that if you choose one, you stick to that. You can't take your complaint here, take your complaint there at the same time, and hope for the best that if that other one comes positive, then I will take the decision of that. It doesn't work like that. The moment you choose the ombud, you stick to the ombud. If you bring a complaint to the ombud and you have also taken a complaint somewhere else, when the respondents respond, which will normally be the fund or the employer, and they say, but we are dealing with this matter in court. Here is the case number. Then the ombud will have to withdraw to say, this matter is being dealt with in another authority. Yes.
And remember, one of those R words, it's resourcefulness. So now, if you spread, you are abusing the resources.
Definitely.
That element of resourcefulness, it won't be there anymore. All right. So yes. I'm just adding on what you have said. Having said what you have said, Advocate, one of the key issues that is problematic, what is the time frame people are expecting? Let's say a person resigned today. If you can give me the time frame that if you resign today, now you are talking on behalf of GEPF now. Yes. What is the time frame for GEPF to respond in terms of giving them the money? I'm talking about resignation. And at the same time, what is the time frame in terms of when a person goes to pension?
Yes.
Because once people understand that, then they'll be able to say, oh, okay, this is the time frame. Where has he blocked? So they'll be able to know that no, we haven't met your time frame. If you can give us those time frames.
Yes. The time frames are same for both a retirement and resignation. It's 60 days for payment to be made. Now, the question is, when does
sorry, Advocate, 60 working days or 60 days?
60 calendar days.
Calendar days, okay.
60 calendar days.
Okay.
That is basically 2 months on average.
Yeah.
But the problem is, when does this 60 days start? When does the count start?
Yeah.
GEPF says from the time that we receive your forms. We know that you have resigned or that you have retired, and then we start processing that. If we haven't paid you within 60 days, we will pay you interest, late payment interest.
Okay.
But the challenge is, when do those forms arrive? In most cases that we come across, in this short space of time since we started operating, we've realized there's a big problem about forms arriving on time. The forms take a month or two before they even send there. Sometimes they arrive there, they are not properly completed, so they are sent back. So that time is not counted from the GEPF side, because in terms of their rules, they say we will pay from when the forms arrive. But the issue there is that, are they arriving? Are they ready to be paid on time? When they arrive, are they fully completed? And that is what you find as the challenge regarding most of the complaints. But that shouldn't be in cases of retirement, because retirement is something that is planned. You know, at the end of October, I'm going to retire. You are allowed to submit your forms before 2-3 months before. You can say, I'm submitting my forms, and then they acknowledge that they have received them and they are in order. So you can get your payment immediately after retirement, in the next month after your retirement. But with a resignation, that is another case. You don't know that I'm going to resign maybe at the end of September, or sometimes you may know, sometimes you don't. Yeah, but if you do know, like you are going to serve a month notice, then when you are serving that notice, you submit your forms, and then you shorten that 60-day period, because it doesn't matter whether that you haven't left exactly on your employment on that day, but you have resigned already. Your resignation has been accepted by the employer. Then from there, you can say, I've submitted my form, so I'll only have a month to wait. Sometimes they can even process your payment earlier than the 60 days. 60 days is the outside number. It can be processed earlier than that. So it is that which most people are not aware, that they will say, but I submitted my forms and I left. And only to hear that, oh, the forms are still with the employer. That is the big issue that you need to address, the GEPF needs to address, and the employer as well.
You have touched on something very, very critical, which I heard that people are complaining about that. But before I go to that one, as you said, with a pension, you plan. It's planned. But let's say I plan my resignation. Can I say I'll resign in 6 months' time and submit? Or I'll resign in 3 months' time, I submit in 3 months' time? Yes. Is that possible? Am I allowed to do that?
Yes, it is allowed. Actually, most people do that. Normally, it's 3 months, because I think they also have to consider the salary scales that are applicable at the time of resignation, at the time of retirement. So normally they allow us from 3 months.
Okay. The other question that we have touched on, which is very important, filling of the forms is the client or the employee's responsibility. But I want to know, can I leave the submission of forms with the employer, or can I take responsibility and say, remember, responsibility is one of the big R words. Can I take responsibility and say, hey guys, fill up, and then let me submit to GPF myself without you? Because sometimes, as you say, the employer, I was arguing at some point, some people, in terms of work ethics, people come to work, they go to toilet, I don't know how many times. And then, and here on the other side, people, it's a matter of life and death. A person has a bond, a person has other obligation, they've got kids in schools and they need to pay. I'm relaxed, I take my time, I know, what, I'm not going tomorrow, I'll go the following day. And now during Corona, it's even worse. But now, as you do that, I'm not saying people should not come to work, but I've been a civil servant myself, we'll go to toilet as people, and you chat and then smoke break. I don't know how many smoke breaks. So can I, to avoid those, those intricacies as a person, and say, employer, give me the forms, let me submit myself. Or you submit, I'll also submit.
Unfortunately, with the forms as they are structured, that is not possible. The forms are structured in such a way that there is a portion for the employee to complete and the portion to complete. That is to verify the times that you have been working, the contribution record, and all those things. So those are that is information that is privy to the employer. And so you'll find, unfortunately, in this particular instance, in the private sector, if you are employed and you are participating in a particular fund, it's just that to the fund, and the fund pays. Now here you will find there's a chain of command, because this is government. You have the district. The district serves provincial. Provincial processes the forms and submit it to the national, and then the national is the one that hands it over to the GEPF. So in that chain of command, some things get lost. And one form that is supposed to be signed by the provincial is not done properly. The records are not clear as to when did this person start contributing to the fund and all that. So that is where most of the issues arise.
Having said that, I do agree and understand that. But can I be proactive as a member of the fund and say, I've submitted to the district, and follow up with the district? Have you filled up my forms? Where are they? Can I go to the provincial? Where are they?
Definitely.
Can I go to the national? Where are they? Are they at GPF? can I follow up as a member to make sure that everything has been done to the T?
Definitely. And the GEPF, when it has received your form, notifies you by SMS to say, yes, we have received your forms. So you will know that something is amiss if a month passes and they haven't communicated with you to say that we have received your forms. So
you should raise your eyebrows.
Yes, you should raise your eyebrows to say, hey, what is happening? I submitted my form on this day last month, but I haven't heard from GPF to say. Then you can even call GPF and say, where are my forms? Have you received them? They said, no, we haven't. Then you start with the employer and say, hey, where are my forms? At what stage are they? And you may find that they are, as you said, they are lying in somebody's desk who is busy smoking outside, unfortunately.
And we'll come back to that one. GPF also is commonly known, especially their call center. The phone rings forever, unattended, ring, ring, ring. Some people don't have money, all right? Hanging there. Some people don't have facilities. A lot of people are using cell phones. I'm sure that Advocate, you'll also follow up on that one. I've been trying to get the CEO, and please do me a favor to get the CEO. I've tried. You responded quicker than him. I've tried to get the CEO so that he can be able to have an interview with us and find out where is the problem basically. But I'm happy with your answer. But as I've said, one of the issues that need to be attended is the 0800 number. It rings non-stop. And people end up losing hope. And then the other thing is the app. I see on our Facebook group, people are complaining about the app and so on. If probably you can pass that message, but I'm sure they'll hear now that those things are not set up. I hope the CEO one day will be part of this conversation so that we understand. Now, what is the procedure? Let's say I know that 30 days has passed, 2 months, 3 months has passed. Where do I start as a member of the GPF? Where do I start laying a complaint? If you can give me the procedure that I should follow.
The procedure is very simple. You can call the Office of the Government Employees Pension Ombuds, GEPF, and you request for guidelines, or the easiest way is to go into the website. We have a website, www.gepf.co.za. There you can find all the information you need to lodge a complaint. Basically, you will find a guideline to guide you as to what is it, that information that is needed. And also it's advantageous that you can, while you are sitting there on your phone, you can actually lodge the complaint right there on the website. There is lodge a complaint, you click in there, it will give you a form which you can complete. When you are done, then you can attach the supporting documents that are requested there. And then you submit the complaint.
Okay. Because what I'm going to do, we will, on our social media platform, we'll advertise the website so that people know where to go. But at the same time, not everybody is now into technological era. At the same time, I'll also ask Sonke, if Sonke is the one who can send us those procedures, and then we can share them on our various platforms and say these are the procedures to follow. But at the same time, we'll also tell them go to the website, because that will
I will be glad to forward you our guidelines myself, together with a complaint form. We have basically simplified the issues that you need to put in a complaint into a document. We call it a complaint form, which basically you just complete the missing parts to say, and then you submit. But otherwise, that doesn't really prevent you from writing your own complaint. If you can't get a hold of a complaint, you can write your complaint. But basically, we need your full details. You are so-and-so in terms of your names as listed in your ID number, your telephone numbers, your email address, so that we are able to reach you if we have questions. And then the most important part, because we need the government, when it responds on the other side, to be able to identify you. We need what they call a PESA number, which is your employment number, and then your pension number. Those are written on your payslip. Yes, and then we need you to identify yourself.
Okay.
I'm so and so. I was employed at the Department of Education at this school, and I joined the Department of Education on this day, and I terminated on this day. And I resigned, or I retired on this day. And the next part, then you say what your problem is. I submitted my claim on this particular day. And now it's been 3 months and I haven't been paid. And that is basically, and now the one thing that you shouldn't forget is the relief. What do you want the Ombuds to do if they find that, yes, there's something wrong there? You say, I want to be paid my money.
You have mentioned something very important, that they can even ask that money, including interest. Our people are not aware.
Yes.
Now, while they are still there, interest at what much interest? 2%.
There is no. The interest is determined as at fund value. There is a value that the fund grants at the beginning to say, should somebody be late, this will be our performance, because that money stays in investment. Yes, if the fund has performed at this rate, this is what we will pay you.
If it's a simple thing to send quickly to share, I'll also ask your office to share it with us and say, yeah, the interest rate, so that people know that we can charge up to this so much interest rate. You have already answered one of my questions, which was, remember, there were people who were saying, I've been waiting for 5 years, not receiving money, which is really uncalled for. So now they need to start standing up. And then I also like what you said, people need to identify themselves. And then if you link that identification with the R words, it's reality. We want to deal with reality. We don't want to deal with, that is why I say, when I interview a person, I want to see him. Otherwise, people will say, you are talking to a spook, you are lying.
Yes. The other issue as well with identifying yourself, there are issues, complaints where the person who is complaining is not the member, but the beneficiary. Let's say the member passed on, and the member was the parent. You need to identify yourself to say, I'm so-and-so, the daughter of so-and-so, or the son of so-and-so. But also, you must provide the details of your father or your mother, your late mother, to say, my late mother was employed at this department, and she was employed at this day, and she passed on this day. And so that we are able to link you, because if you just put in your details and your complaint arrives at the GEPF, they look at you and they look at the records and say, we have never employed such a person. We have no such person. Mind you, you're not saying you are the member. You are saying my parent was the member. So you must put on the details of the member clearly, so that you are identifiable and able to be linked to that member.
Advocate, I want your advice on this one. One of the members, in other words, our member of our Facebook group, asked this question. He said, I used to have, my late boyfriend, they have a child, boyfriend, not officially married, but the child belongs to Sobri, and Sobri is late. And now this person was asking, how do I claim? Because the man was working for the government, there is a pension, and this is his child or her child. And me, we didn't, how does such a person go about?
Yes, the same process applies to that person. It's just that here is a child who is assisted by the parent. The parent says, I'm claiming on behalf of my child. The child was born out of wedlock, is the child of so-and-so. And then you attach the birth certificate of the child. And now here also you will need to prove that this is the child of the deceased. There, how do you prove that? First thing, you will need affidavits of people who know about this child. And it will help if the people who are writing these affidavits are from both your side and the late father's side. To say, yes, we know this is the child of the deceased, and the deceased was maintaining this child. That also helps to bring in a maintenance record to say, yes, the deceased was indeed paying maintenance for this child, and here is proof for that. Because basically, what is more challenging is proving that this is the child of the deceased, and therefore this child is entitled to share in the pension.
You know, in this case of this member, he was saying the relationship between he and her and the late member was acrimonious. You know, they were not seeing eye to eye. Even the family, they were not cooperating. She was even struggling to get a pension number. All those details, death certificate. How can you advise such a person what to do in that scenario?
Yes, the biggest challenge in that is that in most acrimonious relationships, there is no maintenance being paid while the member is still alive. But also that becomes an advantage because in those instances, you will find that there is a maintenance court. The person has been taken to maintenance because he wasn't contributing anything to the child's welfare. That is sufficient record to say this person was taken to maintenance court to maintain this child. You see.
Okay. That's another part of responsibility that people should take. Because sometimes it's always easy to blame. Records, remember, records is one of those R words. Go to the maintenance court and open up a case while the guy is still alive for maintenance. This thing that I don't want his money. Now when things like this have happened, now you find yourself, there's no record. There's nothing to reflect that definitely, you know, there's nothing that we can refer to. All right, I think that will definitely help Advocate. Advocate, you are based in Pretoria. Am I right? Now, being based in Pretoria, I'm in Lusubisigi. I'm in Matatiele. I'm down in Limpopo. How do I reach this office? Yes, I know there is a technological website and so on. What about those people who are still not technologically savvy? What are they supposed to do? Or there's any plan from the side of GPO to establish offices across the 9 provinces?
Not at the moment. Remember, we've just launched. We are 2 months old if we follow this, the launch. This is our 2nd month, and we are still even setting up this office to get more staff to populate this office. And the most convenient thing at the moment, not just for us, but for all the members, because we are still trying to get to reach them through media like this, like the current one, the radio stations, and just for them to know that we exist. Then further down the line, when we have established, then we will look into whether we need to have those offices, and if we do, where should they be placed? Because South Africa is a very big country. But the advantage right now is that from a central point, we are reaching out to all those people who are members. Recently, the GEPF published to the members via SMSs and their benefit statements to say there is the office that has been created. This is how you reach it.
But I must
so it is already known to the members. Yes.
I must commend you I can hear that your line is breaking a little bit. That is why sometimes I come in, I thought you are finished, only to find you're not yet finished. I don't know why the line is breaking. Maybe it might be your internet on the other side. I hope you hear me clearly on your side.
I can hear you clearly.
But I must commend you. I really commend you. You're just 2 months old. We approach your office. Sonke Dangala, she's very efficient. She would respond quickly, give me updates.
It's a he.
And you yourself responded, you know, and then you went further, give me your mobile number, you know, visibility. That's what we want. So for me, there is a gleam of hope that this office will be efficient. Moreover, when you start to staff the office, because the staff, I'm sure now, is still limited, all right? So that is why we are saying, instead of calling you all the time, as you get those questions, I want you to allow me to give me the permission that we can forward those questions to your office. Let us get them in writing, then we respond to the members of the public out there, because there are other things that you still have to sort them out. Am I correct?
Yes, you are correct. As part of our mandate is that at the end of the financial year, we are supposed to go report to the board. You remember that question that you raised about the independent. We are supposed to report what did we discover throughout the entire period. What are the problems? Where did we identify the problems? How do we suggest that, what do we suggest how they are going to be dealt with? So it will be in times like that, that we will invite you to say, we started like this. This is how many complaints we have dealt with. This is how many we have solved. These are the problems that we have picked up. And these are the suggestions that we have put forward to the board. So that will also be appearing in the GEPF annual report, a portion relating to the GPO and its findings. So we aim to be as independent as possible so that we can help the members.
You know, you have mentioned one of those positive R words, report. People sometimes don't understand that report is important. Report back, because when you report, it will give you the opportunity to reflect on the report, and then so that you can review and some of the things that needs to be reviewed. One of the questions that I want to ask now, let's say there is a finding. Can you have a finding against the employer? Not now GPF now, the employer. Let's say the employer is the one who's delayed. Can you have a finding?
Yes. The employer has a duty in terms of the rules of the fund. Remember, we apply the rules of the fund. The employer has a duty to, if you resign or you retire, the employer has a duty to submit the forms on time. So failure to do so is a breach of that. We can order the employer to say, submit the forms. Yes, we can order the employer to say, you can pay instead of the GEPF.
Okay, now I'm gonna go to another terrain. I'm not sure whether this one I'm going to attend to this one. I don't know whether your findings will be binding or not. And there are a lot of court cases. Sometimes they were binding, sometimes they're not binding. Your findings, will they be bindings?
They are binding on this. They are binding on the fund because we are.
It has broken up. It has broken up. I don't know what happened. Advocate, if you hear me, I would ask you to disconnect and connect again.
Okay.
Can you hear me? I can hear you. You disconnected a little bit. I don't know. Yeah. Did you want to?
Oh,
okay. Break?
Yes. Let me repeat myself.
And come back again and refresh. Just for a few minutes. Yes. We are about to finish. We are about to finish.
Okay.
No, but I can hear you now. Let's maybe we can finish.
You can hear me. Yes, yes. I was saying our findings are binding on both the employer and the fund. So the employer cannot say we are not bound, because they agreed to, the moment they decided to put their members in the fund, they agreed to be bound by the rules of the fund, like the fund itself. So you can't say you are sending your employees to contribute to that fund, and then you say, no, we are not going to be bound by what the fund rules prescribe. Remember, the fund rules are prescribed in terms of the law. So they come from the GEP law.
Yeah, if they are not happy, they can just go for review.
Yes, they can go for review.
They can go for review. Advocate, I think you have answered most of the question that I had for the members. Let me see, there was one, especially this one of, okay, this is the last one. What is the turnaround time for the GEPO?
Yes.
I've lodged a complaint with GPO to deal with what is the turnaround time for your office?
Yes. The turnaround time at the GPO is determined by the process. When we receive your complaint, there is a process. It starts with a 14-day process where we go through all the complaints and we assess what is the problem. First thing, we assess whether you have put in all the information that we require. Then we say, okay, this is a proper complaint. Or the other issue at the assessment stage, we also check whether this complaint is the right, is at the right place. Because sometimes somebody may be coming from the private pension funds to say, no, I've heard of this office, I just submit my complaint there. Yeah. Then we redirect you to somewhere else to say, no, this is not the right place. Or after we've assessed basically, and we do find that this is a complaint for the GPO, then we say, okay, we send it to the fund to say, GEPF, there's a complaint against you. Employer, there's a complaint against you. May you please respond? Normally, we'll send it to both because we don't know where the problem lies. So they will both submit their responses to say, we have, they are given 30 days to do that, to submit a response. Now, sometimes, and actually we've picked up in most of the times, they will say when they come back and say, no, there was a glitch somewhere in the employer side or something like that, but we have since resolved it. We have actually even paid the complainant, meaning that it can be solved from anything from that first month. It can be resolved. But also, if it is not resolved, we can get a response and there's a real dispute of law where somebody is saying, no, this rule applies to me. This one, the other one is saying, no, that rule applies to you. Then basically there will be a response received. We submit that response to the complainant and say, please respond within 15 days. Then after that response, then we have a determination done. So that process will take 2 to 3 months. And so normally our resolution of complaints will start from a month, going all the way to 6 months, depending on the complexities of the issues. Some we have to go several times to say, no, address us on this. Some is sometimes a new information comes up that we need to resolve, and we say, no, there is this issue. Like if you're talking about the distribution of a death benefit, you raised a case of somebody who comes up and said, no, actually, the deceased didn't only have those children. He also had this child with me. Now, when issues like that are, that person must be contacted. And we must investigate so that the distribution is fair to everybody who was a dependent. So that will extend that time period to about 6 months.
Okay. So the ultimate time is 6 months.
It's 6 months, yes.
I know I said that was the last, this is the real last one. Who's funding GPO? Is it GPF or is it the government, or are you looking at private funders? And I'll link that question to you going forward. Are you going to capacitate your office? If you can give us your office, how many personnel do you have currently?
Yes.
And the job is too much, eh? And what
the job is too much.
And what are you envisaging? Are you envisaging to add and so on? Yeah, let's start with funding.
Yes, we have just, as I've indicated, we have just started. We are currently 4 in the office. We have been approved to employ another 6.
Okay.
That is in the immediate future. We are busy finalizing the appointments. And then the rest will be dependent as well on the number of complaints that we have to deal with. That is the growth of the office. Now, as to the funding, we are funded by the GEPF. As I said, we are created from a resolution of the GEPF. We are a structure of the GEPF board, not the GEPF administrator, but the GEPF board. The GEPF board said, we are creating the office of the Ombuds, so they must give it a budget. And they did give us a budget, but now what they did is that they said, Advocate Ramabulana, we are employing you to create this office, to set it up. What do you need? And justify it. And that is basically where we started. And the budget was set accordingly. And it will be reviewed annually depending on the number of cases that and the work that is being done.
Now, along those lines, the people to be employed will be people who are legally inclined, like attorneys, advocates. What kind of people? People who are competent in IT, but I'm sure law is required. The future, the potential, the potential people to be employed.
You are right.
So that people out there they can understand that this office is gonna grow. Not everybody, not somebody can just knock and say, "Give me a job. I interviewed you."
Yes.
There are certain criteria.
The majority of employees definitely are lawyers. Depending on, there are lawyers who are familiar with the pension industry. Those are the ones who are at an advantage. But basically, the majority of the employees are lawyers. And then we have administrators, we have receptionists, and some such, the support staff, basically. But the majority of it's basically a legal entity because in the sense that it is a law structure. Because what we deal with is rules and laws. And adjudication is basically when we say we do determinations, is basically doing judgments. So that is something that lawyers are familiar with.
Okay. Advocate, I must say, I'm grateful. And then keep up the good work. I hope other smaller media houses like us, when they approach you, you'll always be available. But we understand that we are very busy. I'm really humbled by you allowing us to interview you. I'm sure this will help. But if there's anything that you want to share, maybe you think it's important, feel free. You've got my contacts, share with us, let's share it with our members. But as we get questions that are related to you, we'll pass them to you. Get answers if you get answers. And then that's it. Where you don't have answers due to it's not within your terrain, it's another structure, then you also give us those answers. But thank you very much. Keep up the good work. I wish you good luck going forward. You are handling a very, very important department. People are complaining about GEPF. And one of the complaints that I've already submitted to you publicly is this one of the what do you call the 0800 that rings forever. One, and the app. I don't even know how does that app work. The app, people are complaining, you know, they're complaining. So those are 2 issues that I'm submitting to you now, and then you can pass on to the GEPF. And please forward the message to the CEO that would like to interview him. at some point. I've sent him emails. I've sent emails to their communication people, no answers up to this point in time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Much appreciated.